So today has been, well, let's face it, today has been an absolute, it's been one of the heaviest news days I think I've ever seen in my life. There's been lots of stuff happening, so let's give it a recap. Last night we got the draft text that has been agreed with the EU between Theresa May and the EU. Dominic Raab was the one who, the guy who brought it for us. And then we found out last night certain things in the deal, and since the text has been made public, then we've found out exactly what's in it. And it's not good. It's not good at all. It basically keeps us in limbo. It keeps us in, I think purgatory would be the right word for it. I'm not sure whether I've got the definition of purgatory right there. It's sort of like nowhere, no man's land. Because, first of all, it's treating Scotland differently to Ireland. And Wales, for that instance. People have made points that Scotland and Wales were not mentioned anywhere in that 585-page agreement at all. And that's pretty unfair, really, because, you know, let's face it, Scotland and Wales are just as much, you know, in this as Ireland are. Scotland overwhelmingly voted to stop in the EU, rather, as did Northern Ireland. So treating Scotland differently is, well, let's say it's bad for a start. Second of all, there's obviously a lot of concessions in there because of Northern Ireland and bending to Northern Ireland, that sort of thing. Scotland are not going to like that, especially since one of the stipulations in this agreement is the EU have fishing rights in Scotland. That isn't cancelled, which is obviously a big thing for that industry up there. We are in limbo, basically, with this deal, if it passes, which it won't, but if it does. And the deal basically keeps us, and it says, Jeremy Corbyn picked this up as well, in Houses of Parliament, obviously he did, 20XX, actually is in there in the document. The deal lasts until, it's temporary until 20XX, until we both agree, yeah, okay, that's it. We're fine, we've come to an agreement, and then we can have another agreement. It's, you know, this is a temporary thing to 20XX. What it basically means is, and this is the truth as far as I can see it, what it basically means is we cannot exit that deal. If that deal is signed, we cannot exit it for the next 81 years unless the EU say, okay, you can exit it. What? That's just not right. So, you know, not many people are going to it's not going to get much support. I said this yesterday. She's done. Stick a fork in her. We can't even leave this deal if we want to, which is just, well, it's unacceptable for the majority of people, let's face it. First thing this morning, there were resignations as a result of this. Dominic Raab, the Brexit secretary, was first. And with him resigning, I think that gave other people carte blanche to say, right, okay, I'll hand mine in as well, gave them the courage to do it as well. Had he not gone first, then maybe there wouldn't have been as many resignations. It was 7. Thanks very much, Patrick. I will keep on. I think there's 7 resignations so far. It could be even more. It really could, and there could have been even more while I was setting this up. But I think this is about as up to date as possible. So he was first, and there was just a raft. I mean, at one stage, somebody put this out: breaking, Larry the cat resigns over the EU, which I thought was, you know, kind of funny. And then one of the people that resigned was Esther McVeigh. I made a point of this in my earlier video that was stuttering like mad, so I'm going to make it again. And I'm going to expand on it as well, because Esther McVeigh, apparently, if this is to be believed, I don't know who Pippa Carrere is. She's a journalist of some sort, I believe, so I don't know how credible she is, but as Jimmy says, she's got a blue check mark, so she must be important. She said Brexiteers will be furious about this. Mark Sidwell, Mark Sedwill, rather, is the most senior civil servant in the country, sources suggesting McVeigh was in tears. Really? She was in tears. Cabinet sources said Esther McVeigh, this was from The Guardian, the Work and Pension Secretary, made the most impassioned interventions against the draft agreement and warned of chaos should the government lose a meaningful vote in Parliament. May twice refused a request from McVeigh to hold a vote in the room. One Cabinet source said that McVeigh was, quote, shouted down by Cabinet Secretary Sir Mark Sedwill. So she was calling for a vote and they wouldn't give it her. And I'll explain why they wouldn't give it to her. I explained why they wouldn't give it to her in a video last night, because they didn't have the support. She didn't have the support. You know, there were 9, depending on who the source was, there was 9, 10 or as many as 11 of the 21 cabinet members that were in the room against it. And that's without it came to, that's just people who were against it without it coming to a vote. Obviously, when it comes to a vote, other people might see 9 or 10 hands go up and they do it too. So it's interesting as to my theory as to why she's done that. I'll come to that. But first of all, Esther McVeigh, I want to make this point. That's what makes you cry, Esther McVeigh? That's what makes you cry, because you're frustrated because your voice isn't being heard. You're frustrated because you feel as if, you know, you're shouting into a vacuum. That's what makes you cry. Imagine the people who are suffering right now, who are disabled and with mentally ill. Imagine how frustrated they are with their benefits cut and not being able to feed their children and having to go to a food bank and being evicted. Imagine their frustration. Now you get, and this is indicative of the ruling elite. It really is. It's indicative. There's her probably in an Armani suit, banging the table, saying, I want my voice to be heard. What about their voices, Esther McVeigh? You don't cry over their voices, do you? And they're not doing it in a frigging Armani suit in some lovely swanky office in Westminster or number 10, are they? It really annoys me that they're so out of touch, these working classes. Just, what about this woman from Birmingham? This was just 3 days ago. That's the state of her council flat, and they won't fix it. Look at it. Imagine her frustration. Imagine her frustration at her voice not being heard, Esther McVeigh. Birmingham City Council reportedly advised them to keep windows open, push everything 3 inches away from walls, and dry their clothes outside. Not we'll sort it out. Not we'll come in and we'll send workmen in and get it. No, just, hey, you know what? Just cope, will you? Just cope. You're poor. Just cope. You'll get what we give you. That's the attitude. Imagine their frustration, Esther McVeigh. You out of touch. So out of touch. It's unreal. Really makes me quite angry, that does. And then we got. There was a Tory MP, I forgot who he was now. He was on, he's from the Canary. He was on BBC Radio 5. And he said, blatantly, Theresa May has got 80% support for her, in the public, for her draft text. To be fair, I can't see who the presenter was there. To whoever you are, I apologise, but she pulled him up on it and he had to admit that he'd just pulled that statistic right out of his ass, which is, you know, the lies had already started. Then this happened. Evolve Politics reported that a vote of no confidence in Theresa May is now imminent. The ERG, which is the European Research Group, appear to have agreed to send letters en masse. Now, I said yesterday that I thought maybe 30, possibly 40 might go in, but it would be enough to spark a vote of no confidence. And Jacob Rees-Mogg comes out and says they've agreed to vote en masse. So that's roughly 80 votes against, or possibly roughly 80 votes against this deal if it comes to a meaningful vote in December, which it doesn't look like it will anyway. This deal is obviously dead in the water. So the chance of May's getting support, let's just put it in numbers, that's if it comes to a meaningful deal in December. She's got 315 Tory MPs, 10 DUP, SNP 35, Lib Dems 12, and obviously all the Labour ones as well. She's not going to get the support of the DUP, so that takes her down to 315. and she's not going to get support of 80 ERG members. So that takes her down to 235. She needs 320, so she's going to have to get something like 85 votes from elsewhere. The SNP are not going to vote for it. The Lib Dems are not going to vote for it. They want to stop in the EU, and the SNP are rightly, in my position, standing their ground on these fishing rights and the fact that Northern Ireland is being treated basically different to Scotland. You know, thank you very much, Swami. I so appreciate it. Thank you. So yeah, they need 85 votes from Labour. Even Kate Howie has come out and said she will not vote for that text agreement. So that is where we stood. And then Theresa May came out with her. Lots of people were expecting her to resign. I wasn't. I was hopeful. But lots of people were expecting her to resign. By the way, this I found was funny. Chances of Brexit turning out well. None in blue. In yellow, their little pie. None, but in yellow. Space Angel 1964. Well done. That was a fucking funny clip. So she came out and did her speech, Theresa May, and basically was defiant and said, I'm going to fight on. Which people are amazed by. Now I've had a chance to think about it, I'm not, and I'll explain why. Before I get there, though, I want to give somebody credit. You know what? I believe in credit where credit's due. I'll give Donald Trump credit where it's due if it's due. It's just it doesn't happen very rarely. I'll give Theresa May credit where it's due. Just doesn't happen very rarely. In this case, I'm going to give Laura Kunsberg, the BBC editor, credit because that question, deciphering all this, that question was absolutely 100% correct and a difficult one to answer, and Theresa May just ignored it totally and moved on. She gave a basic speech. She'd probably even been given the question beforehand. She's certainly given the question at the end, the one about cricket, so she could leave on the Jeffrey boycott line. But you know what? Credit to Laura Kunsberg. She said, is it not the case that you are now in office, but you're not really in power? And that is exactly the situation as we see it at the moment. She is the Prime Minister, but she does not wield any power whatsoever. Okay. So what next? I think that is next on my list. Yeah, what next? So if the 48 letters have gone in, and it looks like almost half of the Conservative Party are voting no confidence against her here, we get a vote of no confidence. If there's a vote of no confidence and half of the Tories vote against Theresa May, then we get a leadership contest, and she said she's going to fight on in that leadership contest by the look of it in that press conference that she had. Now, if she wins if she wins that leadership contest, or that leadership challenge, then she cannot be... Thanks very much, Sets. Supporting the fight against drop frames, he says. Thanks very much, buddy. She cannot be challenged for a year if she wins that, but I don't think she's going to. If nearly half, if 80 people from the ERG have voted against, are given a letter of no confidence, then I don't think she's going to win that. That means a leadership contest. Now, whoever wins that has a short amount of time, just a short amount of time, to broker a deal with the EU. Remember, we're leaving on March the 29th, so we haven't got time. If the deal is rejected, then we've got 21 days to come up with another deal. And if it doesn't happen, then there are all sorts of possibilities that can happen. All options right now are on the table, all of them, including a referendum, which I've been saying that they've been desperate to get all along. This was the plan all along, to get a second referendum. That's why they gave us an in-out referendum without defining what out is. That's the reason I voted Remain, because I thought this is a stupid referendum. It's just going to open the door to another referendum and possibly multiple. That's why I voted Remain. If I had an option to leave, and I could see that option and the implications of it, then maybe I would have voted for leave, which is the case now. But all options are on the table, including a referendum and a general election, including a referendum as a general election, which is probably more likely as to what will happen. So why has this all happened? Why has Theresa May done this? Because she's got to have done it for a reason. She's got to have done it for a reason. And you know what? The people out there who are in independent media like me, we're going to tell you what the reason is. Because there's an elephant in the room here. And it is only independent media that are going to tell you what the elephant in the room is. You're not going to get it from mainstream media. Today's speech that she gave was not important. It wasn't. Today's speech was just a continuation of the last one she made. You might remember this. This is the end of her last speech.
I have worked to bring people with me, even when that has not always seemed possible.
By the way, have you noticed that was the last time she gave a speech from that room? She gave a speech from the same room today. Today's speech was just a continuation of that speech. This is how it ended.
I have worked to bring people with me, even when that has not always seemed possible. No one wants a good deal more than me, but the EU should be clear. I will not overturn the result of the referendum, nor will I break up my country. We need serious engagement on resolving the two big problems in the negotiations, and we stand ready.
The important part there is here.
Should be clear. I will not overturn the result of the referendum, nor will I break up my country.
That's what it comes down to. I will not overturn the result of the referendum, so she won't give another referendum, and she won't break up the country. Curiously, I remember when she gave that speech, and out loud I said, I will not break up my country. I said, that is the really important bit. I said it out loud. I wish I'd have done a video about it. I really do. You have to take my word for it, because only one outlet I can find actually ran with that as the headline. Only one, and that was the Metro. It's the only one in the UK I could find. The only other article I could find that had I will not break up my country in the title was Politico in the US. They're the only two that actually ran that headline. Was it last month? I think it was September, beginning of September. They are the only two. And this is why. Because there is an elephant in the room, and it's Northern Ireland. And they do not want to talk about Northern Ireland. By the way, credit where it's due. I said this today. Credit where it's due to Theresa May. First of all, in a time when, you know, the rhetoric is that we're in a divided country and, you know, everybody needs to come together, she's managed to do it. She's managed to unite the country. She's just managed to unite the country in hating the deal that she's brought back, or that she's suggesting. But let's get back to the elephant in the room, because the elephant in the room is Northern Ireland. And remember, Jamal Thomas actually pointed this out. I don't know where he got it from. Great guy and podcaster from YouTuber from America. I think he's in Barcelona at the moment. I must try and get in touch with him soon. But there was a Star Trek clip where Data was talking about the reunification of Ireland. He was talking about philosophical things with regards to violence in politics in order to get your own way, when all other ways of trying to come to a deal fall down. And he mentioned there, obviously it's set in the future, he mentioned the Irish reunification of 2024. That clip was actually not aired in the UK by all intents and purposes. There was a load of information out there saying no, they actually cut that clip. I don't know whether they cut the clip or the whole episode, but that is how much of a touchy subject it is for the ruling elite in this country. But the thing is, that's what it all comes down to. This is what it all comes down to. Because remember, Ireland overwhelmingly, I think it was 67% or 64%, it was overwhelming, it really was. Ireland voted to remain in the EU. Now, the Unionists in Ireland historically have held a majority. However, there are two stipulations in the Good Friday Agreement. Two. First of all, there cannot be a border. And second of all, there is a stipulation in there that at some stage when it is applicable, at some stage when it is believed that Northern Ireland would vote to leave, and feeling was that they wanted to leave the UK, then there should be an Irish referendum. This is what it says. I actually got this from, oh damn, I forgot the website. I'll put the link down there. I'm really sorry, I forgot the website. I'll put the link down there when I drop this video tomorrow, when I edit it and drop it. But this is the situation with regards to that. The UK government has the power to call a referendum in Northern Ireland, and this is entitled "Who Gets to Decide Whether and When to Hold a Poll." The Good Friday Agreement states that, quote, "The Secretary of State should call a referendum if at any time it appears likely for him that a majority of those voting would express a wish that Northern Ireland should cease to be part of the United Kingdom and form part of a united Ireland. In the Republic of Ireland, reunification would require a constitutional amendment. This would require legislation to be passed by both chambers of Parliament before it was put before the people in a referendum." Now, I'm assuming they're talking about the Republic of Ireland there. I don't know the difficulties at the moment with regards to Northern Ireland, because obviously they haven't got a sitting government there at the moment. It's a right chaos. So, again, that is another spanner in the works of actually moving forward with this. And it actually says in the bottom, in the event that either part of Ireland voted against reunification, another poll cannot be held within 7 years. And this is why Theresa May has done what she's done, because she knows that in order to get a Brexit, you are going to end up with obviously some sort of border. And to have some sort of border, either Northern Ireland need to agree to it, or they need to vote. They need to stop in the EU. I've been saying this all along, and independent voices have been saying this all along. You just go and have 5 minutes on George Galloway's Twitter feed. He's talking about it. He's been talking about it all the time. Go and have a look at his interviews on RT, on YouTube, RT American and RT UK. This is what it all comes down to. But they don't want to talk about it in the ruling elite because they don't want to break up the union. And that's the whole thing. Now, my question therefore is, has anybody asked the people of Northern Ireland? Because I don't know whether they should. I've obviously looked at the history of Northern Ireland. I've gone back to 1921 or whatever it was that it was partitioned, and I'm no expert on it. And also, the information I get, who's to say that that's correct information that I'm getting from the internet? You just don't know. The only way to find this out, in my eyes, is to actually ask the people of Northern Ireland what they think. Has anybody done that? Has anybody suggested it? Of course not. They don't even want to put it in the press, you know. But I'm damn sure if I was sitting in Northern Ireland, I would think, hold on a minute. You know, let's say I was a unionist and I wanted to be part of the UK. And I desperately wanted to stop in the EU. Maybe I would want to reunify Ireland. You just don't know. Has anybody asked them? Has anybody asked them? This is the last graph that I could find, the last vote that I could find. Now, this is from May. This was printed, so this comes from 1998 to 2016. Now, you can see there was only just a 50% favourability to remain in the UK then. There's a lots of other undecideds there. There's Irish reunification or independence. But at least put it to a vote, because surely that's up to 2016. What I can't find any information with regards to 2016 to 2018, or certainly in the last 6 months, or certainly in the last 6 days or 6 hours since this deal has come back from Theresa May, and now we know where we stand. I've said all along, as soon as she makes a decision, she's toast, and that seems to be the case right now. Now, it's only independent media that are going to be asking this question. They're going to try and avoid this question for as much as possible. They're all saying that she's gonna stand defiant, and they'll come out on one side or another, and it'll be partisan hackery in the media as usual, and just same old crap between one side versus the other, trying to divide. All I am trying to do here, all I am trying to do is just try to come to conclusions based on what I know to be true, or what is alleged to be true, and try and decipher what's true, and then make conclusions based on that. I haven't got the answer. I haven't got the answer as to what the best Brexit would be. How would I? I haven't got the answer. But the thing is, I don't think anybody else has got the answer either. And it certainly says to me that Theresa May's answer is not the answer. I don't think Jacob Rees-Mogg or Boris Johnson or any of the other leavers saying, leave now, get out now, I don't think they've got the answer either, because that question has to be asked first of Northern Ireland. They're not going to do that, but independent media are. Like I say, all I'm trying to do is trying to come to a conclusion based on what I know to be true. And I haven't got all the answers. I don't think anybody has. But at least I've got the balls to ask the question. And that's the situation at the moment. It all comes down to Ireland. It really does. And this is why Theresa May has done this. She doesn't want to break up the country. She doesn't want to break up the union. You speak to George Galloway about Northern Ireland. He will tell you there is no Northern Ireland. There are 6 counties in Northern Ireland, and that's it. I don't know the history of all of Northern Ireland, and I'm no expert on it, but I tend to defer to those who are. And I think it's fair to say that George Galloway is. It's the Irish situation that has got to be answered before we can have what the country democratically led to do. And we cannot have them. We cannot have the mainstream media and the ruling elite let this become another referendum, the same situation we were in 2 years ago. What happens if we vote to leave again then? What? You're going to have another referendum and another? The people saying that are correct. We voted to leave. It was said it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know what? I know English people who say, you know what, Scotland, you had your vote. What are you going to do? Have another referendum? And then the same people who are calling for a second referendum now with regards to Brexit. Come on. That's hypocritical. That's as I see it. Got to ask that question with Northern Ireland before we can actually even get to the stage where we've got a Brexit deal worth having and worth voting on. And maybe then give people a choice. I'd be for it then. I'd be for a second referendum then. Once we've actually got the outline of the deal. A deal that is acceptable. Not this piss poor deal that Theresa May has suggested. Which, like I say, I've said all along I've said she's kicking the can down the road, because as soon as she makes a decision, that's it, they're toast, they're done. She loses support from one side or the other. So we'll see. She's made the decision. She's lost the support. It looks like there's going to be a leadership contest. I'll try and keep everybody informed on it. It's been a long bloody day. But I think I've covered everything I wanted to do. If you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and click the bell below so you get a notification of when I drop further videos. Independent voices like mine, I'm sure you're aware by now, are being censored across all social media platforms, so please like and comment on the videos. That really does help the channel out, and share the videos wherever you can to grow the audience. If you can, please support me on Patreon. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. I cannot do this without your help. I rely on your donations. Thanks very much for your support. It really is appreciated. Until next time, peace and take care.